Hey everybody, welcome back. James here again with you, and this is a follow-up video from the video I just did recently on how to tune an adjustable air gun featuring the Avenge-X 25 caliber. And here it is right here. So what I'm going to show you is to fine-tune this even more and tell you why you should actually avoid the 25 caliber in the Avenge-X. So first off, let me recap real quick. There's 3 scenarios. Again, if you haven't watched the video, I highly recommend it. I'll put the link down below. But 3 scenarios your air gun goes through, whether it's a regulated or unregulated PCP. The pressure overpowers the hammer. The pressure and the hammer balance out, or the hammer overpowers the pressure, the valve, and you have to know which one of those scenarios your gun is going through to fix it. Well, as you've seen, again, recapping here, I lowered the regulator pressure of the Avenge-X down to 2,000 PSI because that's where it shot really good. And I let the pressure fall down, the fill pressure fall down to 2,000, and it regulated it at 2,000 PSI. Even though this is a flow regulator and not a PSI regulator. So that's what this gun shot well at. But the next day, when I degassed it fully and aired it up and let it sit overnight and set the regulator to 2,000 the next day by barely cracking it open counterclockwise from fully closed, that pressure is too low for this gun. And you're probably thinking, what do you mean too low? It shot great. It doesn't shoot great when you have a fill pressure that's way above the 2,000 mark. Like, here, I'll show you the targets. So, as you see, these groups here, I'll take a close-up to show you. Some of these were full mags, and it was just spreading across the target here. Whereas some of these groups down here were a lot tighter. And there is a reason behind this. The fill pressure is what caused the hammer to not open the valve all the way. And what that means is, if I am not getting consistent groups above that 2,000 PSI reg setting, and again, it was only shooting good when the fill pressure was close to that, right? According to the first video, same as I've been testing it since then. The hammer spring is too weak. And you're probably thinking, what are you talking about, too weak? How is that possible? Well, I'll tell you guys straight up, you cannot share the same hammer spring through all 3 calibers of guns. That is a big no-no. I do not know why they did this. Well, I know why. They did it as a sell point. But when you buy kits for this gun to change the caliber, they don't include a hammer spring. I don't know why they didn't think of that. But the numbers, of course, that they share with you are computer generated to near perfect, where the 177 gets 110 shots, I think, with a 10 grain pellet. The 22 gets 80 shots with an 18 grain pellet, and the 25 caliber gets only 55 shots with a 25.4 grain pellet at 890 feet a second. That's what they're rating this gun at, guys. That's it. There's something not adding up there, and I did the calculations, and the flow rates, you know, for air guns is pretty close to 1-to-1 if it isn't 1-to-1, and the Avenge-X 25 is just not adding up to that correct flow rate. And as you can see, if I have to lower the gun down to 2,000 PSI, and guys with 22s and 177s regs are set higher, that means that the hammer spring is too weak for the 25 caliber, guys. I would avoid getting the 25 personally if I had to do it all over again. And, you know, to prove this, that the ratio is off, the gun right now is tuned, but the reason why I had to change the transfer port to higher, because it shot great when it was low when I first got the gun. As you noticed, if you've seen the first video, like I said, the transfer port is another thing that restricts flow. And the gun was shooting pretty good out of the box. The only reason why I had to mess with it was because it wasn't increasing velocity when I turned the hammer spring in more from the way it was set. 2.5 turns in at 2400 psi on the reg setting, and it wasn't increasing velocity anymore. And it doesn't matter. For some reason, people believe that it mattered whether it was on high or low. It doesn't matter whether it was on high or low on the transfer port. If you're not gaining any velocity, it's maxed out. That's it. At 2.5 turns, 2400 psi on the rig. So, like I did in the video, I lowered the pressure to get it to where it needs to be set at. And it actually needs to be set lower than 2000, but it can't compensate for that because the regulator's almost closed, literally. So that's why I said that, guys, that I would avoid the 25, because if you're feeling above, if you're feeling above the reg and it still doesn't shoot good until you get close to the reg setting, that's it right there. The hammer spring is too weak, again, for the 25, if you catch my drift here. And I do this, on an industrial level, not just air guns. So, I have a pretty good idea what I'm doing and what I need to do to fix that. So, with that said, that the way this gun sits and the spring is too weak, and I have a picture to share with you guys of an actual 25 caliber Avenger spring compared to the spring that's in this gun. I actually took it apart to show you, because that's the only way you could fix it, is either by changing to a heavier spring. That way you can increase the PSI on the regulator setting to be close to 1-to-1, which is about 2,500 PSI, give or take, depending on what you're trying to tune for. But what I did was, now I can't show this because obviously YouTube does not like gun modifications, but I took the action out of the stock, I took the hammer spring out and added a number 10 or a 3/16 washer to the coil spring. And I am at 0 turns currently on the hammer spring, and I'm back at 2,400 PSI because I increased the spring tension. That's the only way you could do that. To make the spring stronger, you have to compress it or add a spacer. And that's an old coil spring trick on brake barrels, if you guys don't know. You sit there and preset the hammer spring even more, and now it's shooting 870, 0 turns in. Make sure my chronograph's on. 875, 267. So 875, and with the flow rate that's given, because these guns are the same no matter the caliber you have, right? The only difference is they didn't change the hammer spring. So that's a dead giveaway. And it's shooting really good at this setting. Like at 50 yards, it groups really nice and tight clusters at higher setting field pressure. Stacking down there. 25 cal, 50 yards, Avenge-X 25.4 JSBs. And again, adding that washer, adding pre-tension to the hammer spring really helped this gun out. That's the biggest issue, in my opinion, about these Avenge-X guns. They cannot share the same hammer spring. It doesn't make any sense why you do that, because like I said, the 25 caliber, you have to lower the regulator down for the hammer spring to even work. Makes no sense, guys. But anyway, I just wanted to share this quick advanced tuning tip. Again, I can't show you taking the gun apart, but I could tell you what I did. If you're able to take the gun apart yourself, and all it is really a couple screws to do it, and get the hammer spring out and add that in, I highly recommend it, because there you would only be filling up to like 3,000 psi on your gun, period, for it to even work that great. And it blows my mind that they did this. I can't believe that they, people say, oh, it's modular. That's the way it is. That's anybody in their right mind that knows air guns or pneumatic systems knows this isn't right. Now, the spring in the gun might work fine for the 22 and the 177, but with the regulator set that low at 25 caliber, come on, you might as well just be shooting an unregulated air gun at that point. I mean, you might as well just shoot a straight valve gun with no regulator in it, period, if you have to shoot it that low. That makes no sense. So anyways, I just wanted to share this with you. And again, I got it tuned in and a lot better than what it was. So especially with the ratio that the 25 was set at with the hammer spring, that makes absolutely no sense. But anyways, I hope you got something from this video, and I hope you see what I'm talking about here. And I highly recommend watching the first video if you didn't already, about how to tune adjustable air guns with this same rifle. So it's just dumb. Like, I don't understand. Even in the kits, they don't include the different hammer springs for the specific caliber, when the Avenger rifles themselves all have different hammer springs in them. And you can tell that the hammer spring is not that strong. So that's all I wanted to say. Again, I appreciate you guys as always. I hope you see what I'm talking about here, and I hope to catch you on the next one.